We'll never smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some disease. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to run. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome, guys. That's right. Miss Liz is back, and I have a returning guest from the radio, from the reunions, from Tea Time. That's right. He's been all over with Miss Liz. So we have the incredible Doug Lawrence in here, and we're going to talk about his new book, The Silent Pandemic of Grief. So we're going to get that out there, but we're going to have some fun because me and Doug always have fun. We go down some rabbit holes and we bring back some humor and all that good stuff. So before we get started, we're going to get you over to Miss Liz's YouTube channel and give that a little quick subscribe. And if any Tea Times resonates with you, or if you'd like to see any of Doug's old Tea Times, you could check those out on that YouTube channel as well. It's Miss Liz's Tea Times with an S. And if you'd like to listen on the Spotify, you can check out Tea Time with Miss Liz. That's right. I like to switch it up. I like to keep you guys on your toes. So that's the way Miss Liz rolls. So let's get the disclaimer out there, and then I'll give you an amazing intro of Doug Lawrence, and then we're going to spill some tea tonight. And tonight's tea, he's changed it up because the last time his tea was timely, emotional, and inspiring. And tonight's tea is entertaining, sharing, and enlightened. So see, your tea does change. So let's get into the disclaimer, and then we'll get intro and we'll get Doug in here. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicated to sharing real life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to the discussions. Some episodes may include sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, other emotional triggering subjects. Listeners and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of the discussion, you may or are welcome to contact me through my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or visit my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate and comment on or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely volunteer. Miss Liz myself is welcoming you to join the conversations with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect those wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Now let me get you some information on my guest tonight. Well, good evening, beautiful tea listeners, and welcome to another powerful Tea Time with Miss Liz. Tonight, the table is set for more than just a conversation. It is set for connection, wisdom, and truth. Joining me is someone who has not only been a guest on Tea Time before, but has also shared the mic with me on the radio Tea and on the reunion shows. He is someone who has stood beside me in this journey, a constant supporter, encourager, and friend, reminding me to stay strong and to keep pouring truth, love, and transformation into every cup I serve. Please join me in welcoming back to the table Doug Lawrence, a man of mentorship, of heart, and of depth. Doug brings not only his decades of wisdom as a mentor, but also his understanding of grief, healing, and the power of sharing our stories. Tonight, we open this space to serve a conversation that is raw, real, and needed. One that reminds us all that when we talk together, healing becomes possible. Let me welcome Doug in here. Welcome, Doug.
Hello, it's been a while.
Well, it's been since December, since the reunion show.
That's a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost 9 months.
I know. Gosh, time flies when you're supposedly having fun, but here we are.
Yeah, we have fun because you wrote a new book. You've been busy.
I'm getting around. Yeah, you could say that. So yeah, the new book it posed its challenges. So but Grief the Silent Pandemic has in essence become a part of me, be a part of who I am. And as a result of that, things change with, your life and stuff like that. And one of the things I was thinking about was, when I take my cup of tea and at what I think is the end of the refreshing nourishment that I'm going to get, there are all these tiny little tea leaves, each one representing a journey that I'm to go on, or each one representing something I need to figure out. And that's why I find when you and I get together, we explore so many things.
We explore those tea leaves together, right?
Yes, we do.
So, Doug, I want to, for the listeners who might have not seen you or heard you on the radio or at the reunion shows or the last tea times, share a little bit about who you are so the listeners tonight, the new listeners, can get a little bit of who Doug is.
Okay, so I'm a retired Royal Canadian Mounted Police officer, having served for 25 years. And ironically, what we were talking about backstage, it was today I went to a funeral of a retired police officer who lost the battle with cancer. And so I was there to provide support to the family and all that sort of thing. So it's all around, it's all over. Everywhere you turn and you look, it's there. So ex-RCMP, I actually had PTSD as a result of my service, and I had no support structure, so I ended up having to kind of wing it on my own and draw on the support from my family to help me get through, to get through some of the challenges in that. And then Grief the Silent Pandemic has pieces in there of mental health as well as grief. So it speaks to, grief and the coping mechanisms that that we can put into practice. And a lot of it is, it's a accumulation of what my wife Deborah and I experienced as she was going through cancer and ultimately passing away. So there's that. I have approximately 3,500 hours of mentoring experience, and I've been on, as part of my healing process, podcasts. Believe it or not, podcasts it's like getting a really good shot of penicillin. Podcasts are surprisingly therapeutic. So I think I'm just about at the 200 mark.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Doug, that's something that you just mentioned that really got my attention, is podcasting being therapeutic. I never thought of podcasting being that. And we were just talking about that in the background on how I get so close to my guests, right, and stay connected, that I never realized that podcasting is therapy.
Yeah, it's like writing. So you write a book or bits and pieces of a book or the whole start to finish book. That is therapeutic because when you take the step back and think about, when I started writing the book, how did I feel? And when I come to the closure for the book, how do I feel? And do I feel that anything has changed? And if so, what? And chances are, at least what I found was that it was like I said earlier, getting that shot of penicillin so that I, could continue on. So, um, so you've got the writing of the book, and then like we were talking about the podcast. Every time I tell my story, our story, Deborah's story, I just feel this weight lifted off of me, and it lets me go forward and continue to change, continue to grow as a person, albeit having all this trauma and turmoil all around me.
Well, sharing your story of Deborah, it is keeping her legacy alive as well. Because every different podcast you go on, I'm sure there's a different way that you share the story, Doug. So,
Yeah, probably the easiest. There's variations of the Deborah story, and you pick and choose which variation you want to tell depending upon your read of the audience. And so you'll see somebody who is really caught up in what it is you're saying and is becoming very emotional. I'll switch and I'll deliver this variation, but somebody over here that may not resonate with them. So then I search my memory bank and come up with a different variation. Sometimes the scanning takes a little longer, but
well, you know what? Sometimes that scan it needs to take time, right? In order
yeah,
to get the message across. Every time we've gotten together, I've always learned a little bit more about your story in a different way as well. And I'm like you as well. When we go on to different podcasts, right? The energy, the hosts, the environment, who else is co-hosting, because you want to see if the person's really engaged in the conversation. And if they're not, okay, well, they're not really into this one. Okay, so let me get in that bank and let me think, what could I bring to the table that really gets their attention, right?
yeah, exactly.
So, Doug, what inspired you to write Grief, the Silence Pandemic?
Uh, you know, One thing that I can say for sure is that having written the book and then now standing back and taking a look at what's going on all around us, I'm glad I wrote the book because it touches on so many different things that we're always asking about, that we're always like, even today at the funeral, there was all kinds of questions being thrown out, amongst the people as they stood outside and talked and got reacquainted with each other. There was all kinds of stuff that was floating out there. And, I kept saying to myself, oh my gosh, am I ever glad I wrote the book, and I used Deborah's story and kind of mine as well. So I take the two stories, and that's what I use to set the stage for a very deep and meaningful conversation.
Yeah. And do you ever feel when you go to a service or something, Doug, like you've done today, be triggered as the memories come back? Like you're there for that person, but the triggers of Deborah comes back and you're like, whoa, this is like too much for me.
I left early today because of that. I could feel that because they had a luncheon planned in a nearby building, and everybody was flocking there and everything else. And I'd been invited, and so I said, "Yeah, I'll come over. I'll come along with you." I got to the entrance, and I went, "Not happening." So I apologized, and I said, I have to go. I've got some work commitments and stuff like that to deal with, and maybe the next time."
Yeah. And I notice when you're at a service, there's a grief talk, right?
Yeah.
People don't know how to communicate. They're scared to talk to you or mention that person's name, or you know, uh, they're all like, "Oh, we got your back," or "We're so sorry for your loss." It's, you know, the genetic conversation, but
Yeah.
then there's the awkward conversation, right?
Yeah.
Did you write about the awkward conversation in the book?
What I wrote in the book was I spoke to the aspect of that you need to be able to communicate, but you also need to know what to say and when to say it. And, you know, taking, trying to do anything other than that does not do justice to any one of the two parties. And so the big thing that I found that what I was doing was I told a couple jokes and I made sure that it was the right audience and stuff to do so, because otherwise people would be offended by, you know, by that particular. But the most important thing is knowing what to say, when to say it, and how to say it. That's probably the best description I can give. And when we struggle to do that, that's when we shut down and we don't have any conversations.
Then we get
We,
that awkward silence, right?
yeah, the awkward silence, or we get that should have been silent. You should, you know, that's one of those conversations where you go, whoa, stop. Okay, let me think about that. If I were to actually say what I'm thinking, how is it going to be received?
Yeah. And is that how you got the title?
You know, probably not. Grief, the Silent Pandemic. Where that came from was the aspect, there was a bit of a mixture of cancer and how it's kind of taken over the world, and the fact that when we had COVID to contend with, it was a pandemic. Oh my gosh, you know, we're having to stay locked up in our homes and all this stuff. But what about cancer? You know, what about grief? Every time there's a death, we have to go through the grieving process. And we don't give people the tools ahead of time in order to be able to deal with, you know, prepare themselves for having to go on a healing journey with and deal with grief.
Yeah. And I said that during COVID too, is what about all the other pandemics? We're talking about COVID pandemic, but we don't talk about mental health. We don't talk about grief. We don't talk about abuse. Like how much of the pandemic was actually a pandemic, you know?
Yeah.
I really like the name of the book because
Well, thank you.
you open that avenue of what I was saying for years. What about the rest? What about the cancer? What about the heart surgeries and things that were being put on hold because of COVID? You know, and what was being written off because of COVID? Um, and so, how did you come along with the cover of the book? Because the cover of the book is I like the flow of the colors.
If you take a look at book number 2, which is You Are Not Alone, we actually took book number 2 and we went to a person that that's what they do. They're a graphic artist, and we said, make it as good as book number 2, and if possible, make it better. But the colors need to mesh and flow together. And she did a really good job.
I was going to say because the colors in book 2 are kind of marbleized into book 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I pay attention.
I'd have given you enough clues you'd have come to it anyhow.
Well, I'm a deep looker, right? So I'm always
Yeah.
looking in those leaves, right? Those tea leaves. We're always looking in. So
All you need is 2 tea leaves in the bottom of your cup, and all of a sudden, all the wisdom in the world becomes yours.
right, those 2 tea leaves. I really like that, the 2 tea leaves, because when we get together, that's what we do is we look within those leaves to see what message we can get out there to
Yeah.
the listeners and that. So how did your mentorship help you to write this book?
It was part of the purpose. So it was the reason why we wanted to get a book out there. And book number 2 and book number 3, so You Are Not Alone and Grief the Silent Pandemic, both had elements of mentoring and mentorship as part of the story. And what it basically was that, I don't need to leave you on the island by yourself, because as long as you can access the tea leaves from either one of those 2 books, as long as you can access those tea leaves, you're going to be able to begin to heal and to move forward. And that's how we tied the 2 together. And that's how mentorship is actually, like I said, a strong proponent for both books. Well, and if I think back to book number 1, which was The Gift of Mentoring, it was solid mentoring. Mentoring 101 is what I call it.
I was just going to ask you what book 1 was, because I couldn't remember what book 1 was. I knew book 2, but I couldn't remember book 1.
Yeah, it's the gift of mentoring, and it's, for the most part, it's mentoring 101. It's explained, and there's some case studies and stuff in there that your listening audience would, if you're thinking of implementing mentoring in your organization, or you're searching for a mentor, get that book and take a look at the content, because there's some pretty good stuff in there. I had a close friend of mine read the book and said, it was like sitting on a park bench with you right beside me. As I'm reading the book, I hear your voice. I know what you're thinking. I know where you want to go. And how did you do that? And I said, it's magic.
That's where the real mentor comes in, right?
Yep.
That inner voice.
Yeah.
So when you were writing this book, Doug, what inner voice were you hearing as you were writing this?
The Grief, the Silent Pandemic. The voices I heard in a lot of time, at different times, were my grandfather, who had death by suicide. And so he was wanting me to, because he never truly met Deborah in person. He met her spiritually, and there was an instant connection between the 2. And I mean, I'm talking from a spiritual perspective, and he was the one that provided a lot of insight into what does the message need to be, and how and who is going to deliver it, so that we can continue on doing what we're doing. We can kind of satisfy or meet his purpose that he was hoping would be the result of all our time, effort, and money in putting this together.
Yeah. And so, Doug, do you talk to your grandfather a lot?
I do. Yeah, I do. I'm, how do I put this? I am very close to the spiritual side of my being. And as a result of that, I have frequent visitations from my wife and from other close personal family friends. But my grandfather is my rock, and when he comes, I pay attention.
And that's something a lot of us don't talk about, right? Is that part of grieving, that spiritual side.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with talking to them. They're on the other side. They're listening to us. They can hear us. They can see our pain. And they come and remind us that we can carry on, that it's okay. They're in a good place. and they guide us. I strongly believe that my Oma does that from time to time, and she's like, "What are you doing? Like, let's get moving." Like,
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and it shifts. I'm going through a period in time right now where the spirit world is very active. So I'm having lots of visits. I'm having, lots of conversations, some good, some telling me that think of your purpose. Don't try and second guess, but think of your purpose. And so I think of my purpose and back on track.
right? Like they get you back on track. It's like, what are you doing sitting around doing nothing? Come on.
Yeah,
You got another book in you, Doug. What are you waiting for? Like, get it.
yeah, I know. Gosh, not quite yet, but
Not yet.
it's processing and regurgitating, and the message I'm being given, that I'm being told, is it depends on why you're doing this, not because 6 people told you you need to, but what's your purpose and what do you hope are the outcomes as a result of writing book number 4.
So, Doug, you're talking about purpose. So, when you're mentoring people, do you talk to them about their purpose to get them to look within themselves for their purpose? Because, like you said, it doesn't matter if 6 people tell you to write a book. You're not going to write the book if that's not your purpose.
I think you would take a shot at trying to start writing the book, but because that's where most people kind of falter, is they don't understand the whole purpose thing, and they don't understand that if you want to have a positive outcome, you should have. There's no shoulds in life, but you need to have that purpose, and you need to revisit it on an ongoing basis to be able to sort of say, okay, yesterday I said that I felt like I should go this way, but now I'm going the other way. Why? What am I trying to do here?
Well, it's almost like the word should is like the middle of the road, right?
Yeah.
Because when we're grieving, nobody should be shooting on us. That was part of the grief therapy that I got when I went to bereaved families, was nobody should tell you when to get over your grief, or should tell you how to grieve, or how to speak or not to speak. There's a lot of people that should because they don't understand the grief until they experience it themselves.
I had a university college professor who was a psychiatrist or psychologist, and she was the one that had said to me, Doug, there are no shoulds in life. And every time I would go, oh, I shouldn't do that, she'd go, Doug, there's no shoulds. There's no shoulds in life. Okay.
Is that okay? Brakes on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that word should just go out of the. And look at us, we're using the word should.
Yeah, I know.
There's no shoulds in the war out there, but yet here we are shooting each other.
Yeah.
So, Doug, we had a couple questions that came in while I was promoting your tea time, and one question that came in is, what do you believe makes mentorship such a powerful tool in supporting those dealing with loss?
A large part of, because a good mentor is somebody that listens and hears and is able to maintain a very high level of confidentiality. And on top of it all, they have the capacity or the capability to create that safe place for those difficult conversations to happen. And so I see, that's how come I see mentoring and leadership are hand in hand. That a good leader is a good mentor, good mentor is a good leader. And so what I've found that's been working well for me in helping people deal with their healing journey is all those years. Like I've got something like, I don't know, 30 some odd, no, more than that, 50 hours or years of, 50 years of mentoring experience. And it's just you know when to ask questions, you know when to zip it and listen, and all of those things are what help make mentoring a part of the support structure for mental health.
And another question that came in is, can you share a story where mentoring made a profound difference in someone's grief?
There's so many of them so where mentoring, can you repeat that one for me, please?
It says, can you share a story where mentoring made a profound difference for someone in grief?
When I'm just trying to think, because I've got a number, I want to make sure I grab the best one. I had an individual that I was working with that, so we started the mentoring relationship. So checkbox number one. And as part of my approach is I always tell a story about myself. So sometimes I tell the story about how my father was an alcoholic, and and the turmoil that I went through trying to rebuild a relationship and stuff with him, and that I used that story to have a conversation with somebody else who is dealing with multiple diagnoses of mental health. So they've got a number of things going on. Excuse me. And for me as the mentor, I need to know that in order to be able to sort of develop and plan and optimize their healing process as they go forward. Because the better I know what's causing them the concerns or problems, the better it is for me to customize a mentoring approach. And so, I've got that, but I've also had the situations where I've worked with people and they weren't ready. And so they took alternative measures. Death by suicide is usually the typical one. And they took a different pathway, and I needed to try and figure out how am I going to get them back on track. And it was difficult.
So Doug, how has your grief helped with mentoring others?
What it's done is I'm aware of what everybody, let me back this up. Everybody goes through the grieving process in their own fashion or manner. Everybody looks for the different outcomes that they can get from a healing journey. So, kind of looking at it from the aspect of what coping skills am I going to use. Everybody's different in that regard. But what I have found is that if I share that I'm going through a grieving process, it gives credibility to what it is I'm doing. And people go, oh, I don't mind talking to him because he's been here before.
Well, they relate, right? Because they know
Yes.
that you've had the grief as well. So they're not talking to somebody who hasn't experienced it.
Yeah. And as long as you keep reinforcing that your journey is different than mine, then we're going to see that the road to recovery is definitely going to be better.
Yeah. So, Doug, one word that describes your mentorship philosophy.
One word, relationship.
Oh, interesting.
Why?
Why? Yeah, tell me why.
No, I asked first.
I wasn't expecting relationships.
It's the foundation for everything to do with mentoring. So if I don't have, and I should add a second word is trusted. So if I don't have a trusted relationship to deal with or to work with, I'm wasting my time.
I just didn't hear the word relationship coming to the table. I heard trust coming to the table. Because we have to have that trust in order to share our stories, right?
And you need that relationship because from the relationship comes relevancy. And the relevancy is what stories am I going to tell that are in alignment with what this person is telling me are their concerns.
Yeah. So, what challenges did you have writing this last book, Grief, the Silence Pandemic?
The loss of my wife would be number one. Number two would be hitting the wall, sort of. Writer's block was because I went away on a private retreat to sort of shake the trees and be able to get it so that I could kind of open up and get back on track. So I did that. And I would have to say that the third thing for me was looking for the right relationships to help move the book forward in a timely manner.
So, how long did it take you to write this one?
I think it was close to 2 years.
Oh, wow. So, you were working on this even when I was talking about the other book.
Yep. Gotta follow the script, right?
Right? You got to
Yeah.
follow it. But I really liked how you incorporated the two books. Like You
Yeah.
Are Not Alone in the Silent Pandemic. When you guys check out these covers, you'll understand what I'm talking about. The color flow and stuff. I really think you did an amazing job on that. Whoever did that, amazing job, Doug.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll make sure they know.
Yeah, because I seen the marbleizing. I was like, oh, that's got a lot of the color of the book. You Are Not Alone. I wonder if they're trying to blend it in. Um, and that's what we do with storytelling, right? Is
Yep.
we blend the teas, right? We blend those leaves together and we make a new flavor.
Yeah, except for the 2 or 3 little tiny tea leaves that are in the bottom of the cup. They're there because they have purpose.
So, Doug, do you see your purpose with those 2 tea leaves in the future?
Oh, big time.
And
Big time.
see? What do you see?
Oh, trust, healing, and relationships.
Oh, I like how it came back to that relationship and trust again.
Yeah.
So your purpose has a lot to do with the relationships that you build in life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that kind of tells me why your tea changed from your first tea that you gave me to this tea. And that's what I love. I love when the teas change because if you stay the same tea, then you're not growing, you're not healing, you're not moving. So when I got your tea this time, I was just like, oh, Doug is still growing. That is good to know. So I want to talk about the first tea you gave me, and it was timely, emotional, and inspiring. So, and then this tea you gave me this time was entertaining, sharing, and enlightened. So, what changed between T1 and T2?
I think it was, or it is, it's a deeper connection from, in the podcast that I'm doing and the books that I've written, from those books and from those podcasts comes a degree of wisdom and truth that are at levels that I've never seen before. And so when I look, timely, emotional, those words are kind of helping. Those tea leaves are kind of the start of where we're going.
But we kind of went with book 2 as well, right? Because
Yeah.
you are not alone. Timely, emotional, and aspiring. That was part of book 2. Now we're in book 3, and I can see that book 3 needed a different tea
Yeah.
in order for it to grow. And those words are entertaining, sharing, and enlightened. You're entertaining the word pandemic. You're giving knowledge of there's more than just COVID pandemic. There's grief pandemic that we're not talking about.
Well, and I think in a lot of cases you've touched on some good points, but in a lot of cases there's grief all around us, even though people haven't passed on. So we're grieving the illness that they may be fighting, because in the back of our mind is this little voice that keeps saying, it's kind of like I said in book number 3, I wrote, there was one section that I remember writing it where I had said that I realized that my Deborah was dying. And that by itself, in book number 3, that by itself, you kind of take a look at it. So where did this come from? And it was the wisdom to understand everything that's taking place, what the doctors are saying, and having the wisdom to be able to say, okay, I think we're on a countdown, for some not so pleasant news, and that's kind of shuffling that all around.
So, Doug, in your book 3, do you talk about pre-grief?
Yes.
Because Deborah was going to pass, right? So there's that grief of getting prepared for the grief. So do you mention that in book 3?
Yeah, I do, but you got to remember that getting prepared and all of that you're also at the same time you're going through some different thought processes where are you accepting the loss of your loved, and the eminent, that's the word, it was a big word, the eminent passing of, in this case, Deborah. And are you ready for that? And what are you going through a period of denial where this can't be happening to us, it should be somebody else. So kind of going through the different, sort of asking yourself the different questions.
Yeah. Because in book 3, for my listeners out there, is it like more of a deeper inset of you are not alone, or is it a completely new direction in the 3rd book, Doug?
It's a completely different direction. So it's a deeper dive into the world of grief. And then it's also the aspect of a deeper dive into its impact on Deborah and on me, especially from the aspect of writing her story, and being able to do that and still continue to function.
So when you wrote book 3 and it came out, how did you feel, Doug?
I had a conversation with myself where I said, okay, the book is written, it's published. What are your thoughts? And you know what came back was, give me Deborah back and you can take your book and shove it.
Doug, it's been many years now that Deborah's passed, right?
Yeah, 2021. So we're into year 5, I guess, coming up.
Oh, so it's one of those anniversary numbers.
Yep.
So how is that affecting you today?
I guess, so for me, I'm going through a couple rough patches, I guess. And most of it is because of loneliness. So you're by yourself, everything you do is by yourself, all of that sort of stuff. So I've had a couple weeks here recently where I struggled with that. And so I took to writing. I took pen to paper and I wrote some articles that spoke to what it was I was feeling and all that sort of stuff. And I had some folks that read the articles that immediately went to kind of the dark side and thought that I was basically thought that I needed to get counseling in order to move forward. And I see some validity in that, but I don't necessarily see it as yeah. And it's interesting because the people that I thought would pick up on it and get a hold of me right away didn't.
It's usually like that, Doug.
Yeah, I know. I'm a slow learner.
I am too, so I'm with you on that. I'm like, the ones that should get it, why are you not getting it?
Yeah.
And somebody who is not in your life all the time, getting it and saying hello, like it's a call out, it's check on me, and it's okay to check up on you. One thing I want to do is mention the anniversary numbers, because we don't talk about that with grief, right? The first year, the 5th year, the 10th year, it seems to be certain numbers that the grief really hits us harder than maybe the first day. 5 years later, you might be grieving harder for Deborah than you did the day of. And it's confusing and draining and exhausting. And for people around you, they're like, okay, well, it's 5 years. Like, why are you feeling this way still?
Yeah. And there's days that go by that you ask yourself, is this going to ever end?
Yeah. Because grief is never ending, right? It's like mental health. It's never ending. You mentioned at the beginning of the show, PTSD from your service work. That's part of grief as well.
It has elements of grief, yes. Yeah.
Do you want to share why?
So for me, the story that I tell is about a young lad who I was stationed in a small rural community in northern British Columbia, and no support structure. That's where I met Deborah. And this young lad made the men's hockey team. So we were going to take our men's hockey team down the road a little ways. I think it was about 60 kilometers. And we were going to play the neighboring community. And he'd made the team and he was just over the top excited, so happy. And so he wanted to share with his parents his good news. So he goes home, and as he walks through the door, he realizes this isn't going to go well, because both his parents were drunk beyond anything that we could imagine. And so he went into one of the rooms where they kept the guns, and he took out a rifle, and uh, death by suicide. And so the story goes on, but
I believe you shared it on the radio station, and you or the first tea time that we had together
yeah, I
about
think
this
you're
young
right.
lad. Yeah.
So we don't need to go there again.
They can go check those tea times out or that radio channel out and listen to it there. Um, you've been a guest multiple times on my platforms, and I want to thank you for that, Doug. What is your favorite quote on healing or growth?
I'll never leave you on the island by yourself.
Oh, I like that. Why is that your favorite?
It speaks to who I am as a person. If you come to me and ask for help, I'm kind of like that bottle of glue. I'm stuck to you until we can get you to a place where you're back on track healing, and that we're starting to see some growth in you as a person. That's kind of when that's always been my most favorite saying.
It kind of goes with your books as well, right? That
Yeah.
nobody is alone, right? This journey is together. Uh, what other books or work has inspired you with your grieving journey?
Not so much the grieving journey part. I've read, a number of books by different authors, but none of which, that's, the one thing we wanted with this, with Grief the Silent Pandemic, and even You Are Not Alone, was there are not a lot of books out there that speak to this content. And so um, writing had a lot more stronger purpose because of that. That, and of course, I'm patiently waiting to hear the Global Book Awards are supposed to be announced in the next couple of days or so. And I'm hoping that Grief the Silent Pandemic is in that horse race.
It's going to be. We're going to manifest it and we're going to put it out there in the universe. And Doug's going to be an award-winning author for that book.
Perfect.
Doug, I want to bring you back to a little boy or a grown adolescent. Give me one moment in your life that has made a difference that brought you to where you are today.
I think that the one moment was I remember I was still or just relatively new in the police force, and I was just being transferred from a larger center to the small rural center I had talked about. And I remember I was staying in a hotel waiting for my new boss to drive me up to this community, and I got on the payphone to talk to my father, and he had some advice that, when I look at it now, a lot of it had to do with shaping my leadership style, but it also, ironically, had a lot to do with dealing with grief and all of those things, because the skill sets that I'm looking for were much the same. And what he said was, you're going to work with a number of different people over the course of your career. You need to take and pick the good and make that part of your toolkit, and you need to cast aside the not so good for somebody else to use.
And Doug, what final message do you have for everyone who may be going through grief at this time?
it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to come out of the closet, extend your hand, and say, I need help, and we'll be there to help you.
And Doug, where can people find your book, and where can they find you if they want you on their podcast or their platforms?
So you can reach me www.talentc and you can go to my website and you'll be able to access there. You can also access me through LinkedIn or through, I think Facebook. The easiest way is to just send me a plain old fashioned email, and that would be to doug.lawrence, LAWRENCE, at talentc, so the word talent with the letter C on the end, .ca. And then finally, the books that we've talked about today, excuse me, all three are available on Amazon.com and Amazon.ca.
Awesome. So everything's on Amazon, right?
Yep.
You got to go shop on Amazon, and you got to grab a copy of Doug's book. And Doug, let me know when you get that award, because I feel the award coming for you. I'm going to ask you one final thing, and then we're going to wrap it up with a closure. Coffee, tea, or water during a mentoring session?
Coffee.
Why?
Actually, I would say coffee for 35%, and then the rest would be tea, and it's driven by what time of day. Me and coffee, we have an agreement to disagree if it's not the right time, and I don't have that disagreement with tea. I actually, if the truth be known, I actually like a nice cup of hot chocolate.
Oh, so you're the hot chocolate guy. I like that.
Yeah.
I actually like a good hot chocolate too, even though my diabetes doesn't like it. But I'm just like, once in a while doesn't hurt anybody, right?
That's what I said. So,
Right? You've got to have a little bit of excitement in life. And your final question tonight, Doug, is you've been on the radio with me, you've been on Tea Time with me, and you've been on the reunion show with me. Which one was your favorite?
I like it when we just have a plain old fashioned chat like we had tonight. And we go back and forth sharing ideas and thoughts, and that's so powerful.
Well, I really enjoy our time together because you really make me look within my tea as well. And you help me along with my grief as well. I took some time off because I was grieving and my mental health and that as well. So thank you for that, Doug. And thank you for always being my encourager and supporter for all of my events, and breaking the ice with the radio show and then Tea Time and the reunion show and always showing up for me. So thank you for that, Doug.
Thank you.
So we're just going to give you a little closing summary of what we talked tonight. We had an incredible tea time. This has been a true reminder of the strength that comes from honest conversations and shared journeys. Tonight, Doug Lawrence brought to this table not just his voice as a mentor, but his heart as a human being. You understand the layers of grief, growth, and the sacred work of lifting others as we rise. Doug, thank you for bringing your wisdom, your compassion, and your unwavering support, not just to this space tonight, but throughout my journey. You've shown us all that mentorship is not just guidance. It's about working beside someone, holding space for their truth, and believing in their ability to rise again. To everyone listening, may you take what was shared tonight as a reminder that healing happens when we allow ourselves to connect, to feel, and to grow together. Let us keep planting seeds of change, one cup, one story, one shared truth at a time. With a golden heart and a deep gratitude, thank you, Doug, for being not just a guest, but a friend on Tea Time with me tonight.
Thank you.